Welcome to the Echoes of Alchemy podcast. My name is Jay Robinson, and I'm coming to you from Lotus Sound II in beautiful downtown Collingwood, Ontario, Canada, where we provide sound baths, sound training, day retreats, yoga nidra, kirtan, and so much more. As grounded, passionate, and dedicated students of ancient and modern sound practices, our team supports yogis, spiritual practitioners, meditators, musicians, artists, and those looking to amplify their intuition, inner power, and purpose with our one-of-a-kind, unplugged gatherings and sound bath artistry training. Our mission is to inspire a holistically infused lifestyle, utilizing natural, highly effective, and accessible sound wellness practices, and to contribute to the health, happiness, and spirit of our community. Become your most authentic, grounded, and loving self by embracing the practice of sound with us. We've also just launched OmPrint at omprint.ca. OmPrint is an analog process with digital results in which we take the vibrations of your voice, chanting the sacred syllable Om, and transfer it through water in combination with the reflections of our lighting system and create beautiful mandala-style patterns that we take high-resolution pictures of. Your voice, your masterpiece. Hear yourself in color with omprint.ca. Be sure to check it out. And thank you so much for tuning into this episode. I hope you will enjoy it. Be sure to follow, rate, and share. Enjoy. Welcome to the Echoes of Alchemy podcast. My name is Jay, and today I'm going to talk a bit about how sound baths changed my life. And if you're not familiar with what a sound bath is a meditation in which a practitioner will use, instruments like crystal singing bowls or gongs to create an environment for people attending to meditate upon the sounds themselves. So if you're at a sound bath, you're using the instruments and the frequency and the resonance of the instruments being played as your focal point for your mindfulness. And it's a really beautiful practice. It's an ancient practice that goes back, to times forgotten even. Sound has been a part of the human experience as medicine and as used in ceremony since the beginning of time. So it's really an ancient practice. Obviously, there's a different type of flavor to a sound bath today that there would have been, 3,000 years ago. So my idea with this podcast is maybe to just share my story, and maybe it will inspire some of you to experience a sound bath if you haven't before, or to look at it in a new light. And I'm really passionate about it. It's been really an important and positive driving force in my life. And I just want to share a bit about my journey. So for me, as a musician, I've always had a connection to music since I was a teenager and I started playing. And definitely a spiritual component or a feeling of spiritual connection to music, not necessarily listening to directly, outright spiritual or devotional music. Definitely that's newer for me. But I've always had this kind of spiritual connection to music, this deeper rooted emotional connection to it. And it's quite common. Music is a very moving modality, and it can be a huge part of our lives and our journey too. But as far as like sound baths being a separate thing than music, it really came into my radar when the first time I saw David Hickey play. David Hickey is a performer. He does sound journeys with gongs and singing bowls and all kinds of different stuff. He does harmonica too. And I went to one of his shows at the Collingwood Rock Shop, and this is about probably 10 years ago. And it blew my mind because I was really into, and I've always been really into, improvisational music, jam bands, and just the kind of flow that there is with a lot of jazz too. And he had a lot of flow. It was all flow, really, just like flow, like going with intuition and playing a lot of drone instruments and a lot of patience and dynamics. And it was just, totally changed my outlook on what was possible with music. And at that time, this is about 10 years ago. At that time, I just started kind of dabbling in meditation a little bit. I had vices, I had what I would consider substance abuse issues. A lot of my spare time back then was spent, revolved around alcohol. And that first David Hickey show that I went to was the last time I had a drink. So that was 10 years ago. So, well, roughly almost 10 years ago. And that was the last time I had a beer after David Hickey. And I just didn't, it was like a switch had been flipped. And the way that a sound bath type of music can be thought about in this way of just being completely open, like it's an empty canvas. You can do whatever you want with this type of idea of intentional sound just for yourself. Like I'm talking about, personal practice. And I started very shortly after that David Hickey experience. I started dabbling with the sitar in a really serious way. And it was not to perform. It was not to, I didn't tell anybody, other than Justine. Nobody knew I was playing with the sitar. Probably for like 2 or 3 years before I actually like played it, or there was a picture of me or something like that. Because it was really just for me. I was just connecting to it, and I found that it kept me driving forward. Music in general, in this intentional way, kept me moving forward in this sobriety path, because it's a meditation, and you can't really meditate effectively if you're hungover, and you can't create, deeply spiritually connected music when you're completely hammered. Like that's not a thing. You can't do it. You can have fun playing music, and I had lots of fun playing music and drinking beers and doing all that stuff. Lots and lots and lots of fun. Too much fun. And music in a bar type scenario, or a working musician scenario, which I was in for a long time and still am in a different way now. But a lot of that is really about a different type of connection with people. So you're providing an environment in that case, if you're playing at a bar or a club, a kind of party atmosphere. You're providing a space for people to meet and congregate and have fun and be silly and do whatever it is they do, and there can be a whole spread of people, from people that don't drink to people that are, escorted out. And it's a totally different environment. Super fun, Wild West style kind of music, and I love that too. But the sound bath music and what it brought to me, and just the meditation, really the meditation combined with intentional sound, completely changed my whole focus. And meditation and playing the sitar became my priorities, not drinking. And that opened up all kinds of different doorways, because the sitar is a deep instrument, and it goes really, really far. You can take it really, really far. And so that opened my eyes to a whole different, type of music as well, like Indian classical music, and eventually obviously into like Kirtan, and just the history of the instruments and the history of sound, the history of sound being used for ceremony and sound being used as medicine is a part of all of our ancestry. No matter who you are or where your ancestors are from, some of them definitely took part in or were on the receiving end of sound as medicine or sound in ceremony. It goes hand in hand with, like I said before, the human experience. So I think just tapping into that really filled a void for me at the time. I mean, I also, when I stopped drinking, I also was ready to stop drinking. It was time to pull it together. And I was really, and still am, very passionate about making art and making music at the peak of my ability at any given moment, which is, I'm not saying that I'm some kind of special musician, but ideally I want to be performing, or I want to be practicing music at the top of my ability, physically and mentally at all times. And to do that, the only way to do that is to do it sober, or to do it definitely without depressant drugs like alcohol or stimulants. Now it's like coffee, which is a drug of its own. That's a whole different topic. But the sound bath itself, just from that first initial experience with David Hickey, changed my whole life and has led me to kind of where I am today, which is still on this journey of discovering sound and how it can contribute to my wellness, as well as how sharing it can contribute to the wellness of others. And so after that, with the David Hickey and practicing sitar and playing, and Justine was also at the same time learning didgeridoo. She was getting into her craft as far as sound healing, and she started doing her course, her graduate program on sound therapy. And eventually the two things just kind of came together, the didgeridoo and the sitar, and that's what sparked what we're still doing today, which is the didgeridoo sitar sound baths. And we had really beautiful experiences with the sound baths. To be the first ones were kind of funny because Justine had started her practice. She was going to be taking on one-on-one clients, and to meet new people, and to also to educate, the local community on what a didgeridoo is or what a sound bath is. Like they were already here. Like we didn't invent either of those two things or bring them to Collingwood ourselves. But the way we were doing it, and at the time and in the place we were doing it, was new to people. So the best way to introduce it to people on a larger scale was to do a group sound baths. And Justine asked me, and I was fairly terrified. And we did the first one, and it was really like we didn't know if it was going to be one or two, or maybe we just do a few, and that was kind of it. Meanwhile, years later, here we are still doing it. But I remember the biggest takeaway from that first sound bath that we did at Sanctuary, which was a yoga studio in Collingwood. The biggest takeaway for me was like this feeling that we'd done that, like it was a 90-minute session. It sold out. I think we filled it at like 20 people. So it was a really, really good turnout. And it was, so new and fresh to me, this whole concept of this really active, supercharged, enhanced listening environment. Like everything you do, everyone is conscious of, especially in the beginning. I mean, as the sound bath goes on, we all kind of tend to drift, people who are present, me included when I go to sound baths. I tend to drift in and out of kind of consciousness and unconsciousness. But in the beginning, everybody hears everything. So this like really active environment was so new to me, because playing in a bar or playing in, a cafe or something like that, you're really, it's really a challenge to get, to grab people's attention for more than a few minutes at a time, kind of thing. And then this scenario, it's like everybody's attention is fully wide open. And it was really, really amazing. The thing that still sticks with me from then is this feeling of, and I remember talking about this after that sound bath, was this feeling of pushing air. Like we were just pushing air. Like people were there present to meditate, lying down comfortably. And we were just playing these instruments so gently and just pushing air. 90 minutes of pushing air. And it was, it was a beautiful experience. And there's been so many since then. And we've also connected with and talked to so many people who have come to our sound baths who are in or were in similar situations to me with, substance abuse issues or trauma. Sound baths are a really safe place. Sound bath is accessible to everyone. It's accessible to everyone. You're really just laying down and connecting with yourself. You're taking a moment. It's a moment to come up for air. Like Ram Dass says, moment to come up for air. And we're so, so grateful to be able to share these sound baths, but it continues to be a driving force in my life. And I still meditate every morning. I've been meditating every morning for 30 minutes to an hour. I used to do an hour or more, but now it's like 30 minutes for years since then. And I practice my instrument every single day since then. And these instruments and these practices, this is when we get to check in with ourselves. This is an opportunity every time for us to check in with ourselves, to notice how we're feeling, and to take action if need be, right? That's what the point of these practices really is. And again, we're just so blessed and grateful to be able to share what we do with people who are interested. And we always take such great pride in every single sound bath we do. Literally every single sound bath we do, there are people that have never been to a sound bath before. So we're really grateful to be able to share the first experience like this with people, because I remember my first experience being so potent and so important, in my life's journey. So very passionate about sound baths. And so I hope this is insightful. I hope you can take away something positive from this. And go to a sound bath. Take a sound bath if you're somebody who performs sound baths. I also would like to recommend, make sure you're always going to sound baths. Justine and I have been alternating our Saturdays. So we do a Saturday morning sound bath every week at our space, Lotus Sound. And we alternate every week so that, so there's a different offering each week, but really it's also because Justine and I get to also receive. We get a chance to receive. And so if you're somebody that does sound baths, make sure you get out every once in a while and experience other people's sound bath artistry. It's really important. And it can just add to your experience and the experience of people attending your sound baths, right? Yeah. So again, thank you so much for listening, and hope you enjoyed this podcast. I'm going to leave the end here with a clip from an album that Justine and I released a couple years back called Lotus Sound II. And it's a track called Mood Hologram. And this features Justine on didgeridoo and me on sitar. And this is a studio album. You can listen to the whole album on Spotify or Apple Music. Wherever you listen to your tunes, it's there. Just look up Justine Sanderson. It's probably the easiest way. And yeah, be sure to follow, rate, and share. Thanks so much for listening. And until next time, take care. We hope you enjoyed today's episode of Echoes of Alchemy with Lotus Sound. Be sure to follow, rate, and share. And if you'd like to unlock your sonic cosmic archetype, head over to our website, lotussound.ca, and fill in our free Planetary Pulse quiz. If you're interested in our sound training sessions, we have 3-day sound immersions on the calendar. We've got a session in May that's sold out, and we've got a 3-day sound immersion, deep dive into sound bath artistry, open for registration now for August 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. And you can learn all about that as well on our website, lotussound.ca. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you soon.